there are two protagonists in this book. One's English, one's lives in Connecticut. You live in Connecticut and you're English, so I'm guessing you're both of them.
Yes, I think that's a very good guess, actually. I think Vicky is the English girl, and she's 35 and a magazine editor in London, single. And she always, I always think that Vicky is very much who I would have been had I not got married and had children. And then Amber is the Connecticut housewife who, on the surface, looks as if she has everything. Wonderful husband, 2 gorgeous kids, wonderful house, all the perks, and yet feels unhappy, just feels unfulfilled. And there are parts of me in Amber.
I guess all of us have had that, boy, I change places with them in a minute.
Well, I think it's part of the human condition. I think that we always think that other people have it better than we do. And we are, sadly, we do spend an awful lot of time looking at other people and thinking that their lives are better than ours, or ours would be better if we had what they have. And I think I heard something recently, actually, this lovely saying. It was something like the key to serenity is not getting what you want, but wanting what you've got. And I heard that long after I wrote the book, but it actually fits so perfectly with the whole message behind Swapping Lives, which is really about learning to appreciate what you have.
Amber?
In America.
Amber Winslow, one of the Winslows.
Yes.
A perfect name, by the way. I love that Winslow. It just reeks old money.
Well, I sort of became fascinated by these very patrician old money Americans. They're so very alien to me, and I found myself at a couple of dinner parties sitting with these amazing women, actually older women, who were very much like, there was one in particular who just reminded me of Katharine Hepburn, and that sort of type, and these people, they were in, Greenwich, Connecticut, and sort of very waspy, and they lead lifestyles that are so completely different to anything I have ever known. I became completely fascinated by them. And then, of course, so many of them don't actually have the money anymore, but they come from these wonderful families. And I just wanted to use somebody who came from a family like that.
Vicky, I think she's one of those women who would go out and buy one of those T-shirts that says, "I can't believe I forgot to have kids." Because she kind of looks up one day and she's 35 and it's like, oh, how'd that happen?
Yeah, I don't know whether, did she forget to have kids? I think she probably did, actually. She got caught up in her career and just assumed it would happen. I think it's very difficult to just take life on life's terms. I think we all grow up with these expectations of how our life is going to turn out, and Vicky certainly assumed that around 30 she would meet the man that she was going to spend the rest of her life with, and she would have children, and she was going to follow a similar path to her mother, but with a career at the same time, and of course finds that isn't how her life is supposed to be, and of course doesn't realize it until she's 35, at which point she starts to feel that it's too late, starts to panic.
She also seems to ascribe to the Bridget Jones school of dating. Find the most inappropriate man and go out with him as long as you can possibly be strung along.
Yeah, well, this is where bits of my life come into my books. Yes, having not been single since I was 30, my memories of being single were not dissimilar to Bridget Jones. So that is, and my female protagonists are all, my single ones are all very loosely or not so loosely based on me in my 20s, and so they do tend to pick the unavailable, awful men.
Vicky gets a really awful notion put in her head, or does it get into her head herself? I'm trying to remember exactly what the sequence of events is, and I think at one point she tries to remember how she got herself into this mess too, of swapping lives with somebody.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because Vicky is so desperate to be married. It's not that she's desperate to be married, it's that she thinks that her life is not complete. She thinks that marriage and children are the happy ever after, that once she is married and has children, that's it. It's the fairy tale, and there is nothing else to strive for in life, and she will never be happy until she has that. And all of her colleagues, most of whom are married, keep saying to her, you completely romanticize it. It's not all hearts and flowers and fairy tales, and it's bloody hard work, and you actually have got a completely unrealistic idea of what marriage is. But she refuses to believe it, and in the end it's her editor who says, well, you know what, you need to swap lives with a married woman. You need to see what it's like. Which is when they run an ad in the magazine saying, you know, are you married? Do you miss the single life? Come and swap lives with our deputy features director, and remember what it's like to be single, and she will be married. And that's how Amber in Connecticut gets the import of a magazine and on a whim writes off this letter in a moment of particular unfulfillment and ends up getting picked. And this is how they swap lives for a month. I think what it does is it gives them an opportunity to really step outside their lives and look at what they really have.
Nice job. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
The book is Swapping Lives. I've been speaking with the novelist Jane Green and Swapping Lives, published by Viking Canada.